Hey, what's up? It's the 2 o'clock hour of Ward Wrestling Live. Again, thank you so much, everybody out there, for your support. You know where to go to see it. And once again, we have an amazing wrestling mind in our country. He was a Nebraska high school state champ, four-time NCAA D2 All-American, two-time NCAA D2 champ. He's coaching our youth out in the Palo Alto area right now. And he is the owner and coach of Creighton Wrestling and Creighton Trained. And he's here with us today, Coach Brauman Creighton. Sir, thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate this. I know you're a busy man. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And don't mind my lack of technical skills with my green screen. I'm learning. I guess I need brighter lights. I know it's been some tough times we've been going through right now. The off season. Man, what have you been doing to kind of stay sane and keep your kids' minds right while we've been waiting to get things open again?
Yeah, well, I tell you, my wife was pretty tight about the shut-in at the beginning, and so for the first 8 weeks, we really hardly saw anybody else outside of our immediate family. Luckily, I have a nice space in my house where we can train, so we got weights and a mat, and so I was able to really train my family. Now I'm starting to branch out and get back with some of the kids that I coach. And it did give me time to get more videos done, though. I put a lot more content in the last, probably 2 months than I have maybe ever before. So that was good, if there's a positive on it, and focusing on some stuff that you don't normally get to do during the regular season and even during the freestyle season. So save some money traveling too. I tell you that much.
I think we all did.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of your videos, I went on. I saw your YouTube channel, Creighton Trained. You also have Facebook Live and all the other platforms as well. So what made you create Creighton Trained? I mean, where did that come from?
When YouTube got popular, I don't know, 10 years ago, whenever maybe, I think I was into watching videos, and I posted a couple videos back then. And 7 years ago, I posted this double leg video. I was working with this awesome young director. His name is James Nate McLeod, and he's a guy in the East Bay that I made friends with. And he did some videos for me that were like more highly produced and used a better camera, and they were just awesome. And I got a lot of positive feedback from that. So that's kind of how the video thing started. And then I did a double leg video at that same time, 7 years ago, posted it, and literally forgot about it. And I looked up, and the thing had 300,000 views, and people were, had texted me about it. And I was starting to actually get coaches and parents reaching out, wanting me to do clinic work or wanting me to bring their kids to train with me because of this double leg video. So it's actually very close to getting 500,000 views. I'd love to actually to see that happen soon. I'm about 10,000 away. But then I can kind of forget about it again. Then I can forget it about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, man, I'm at like 138 subscribers, so maybe you can give me a little boost.
Consistency, bro. That's it. Just consistency.
Yeah.
You're doing that.
Yes, sir. And talk about who your YouTube channel is for. What is your focus? I've seen some different product on there. You've got your communities, and you've got different aspects that you do there. Who's it for? Who do you want to be there?
When I originally did it, it was just kind of a place, and still to this point, it's like storage. Really, it was for me. Like, I want to put this somewhere. If people watch it, great. If they don't, really, it's just so I don't have to store it on my computers or my storage. So that's kind of it initially started. Then when I started getting positive feedback, and then I actually started trying to teach, or not trying to, but teaching on the videos and teaching technique more, which started with that double leg video. And I would get coaches reaching out to me like, hey, I love, of all the people out there, I keep coming back to your channel. Your channel is underrated. Can you teach this? Can you show me this? I really try to be interactive with the audience. Like, if they ask me to teach something, I'm flattered, and I'll show you my thoughts on it. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat in wrestling. I teach wrestling the way that it makes sense to me, and the way that I wish I was taught wrestling, I guess. Even when I was in high school, being a high school senior, I remember thinking, I think I could do a better job with this practice. than my coach. I think I could do it better. I think we'd be doing this, we'd be doing that, and we're not doing any of that stuff. And we had a good program. I was in a good program. So my coach's mind started early, and really it's kind of funny. I was showing some of the kids that were over here earlier. I taught myself how to wrestle by technique videos back in the day, but those championship products, I probably have 100 videos from championship products, not to mention matches from Iowa Public Television to go way back to like 1982. Okay. I happened to get a box of Dave Schultz videos, every match he ever wrestled internationally. And I have the gift of consumption of like the patience and the detail-oriented mind to actually consume that stuff. You need a tolerance to consume wrestling videos. A lot of people don't have that tolerance, even really good wrestlers. I started watching wrestling for fun at a very young, when I was in high school. And it's like, I'd rather watch that than a big, basketball or football game. So it just became like an art form. So my brain's able to pick up nuance quick. And I try to teach the way I think great coaches would teach the technique. And so to answer your question, it's for coaches, really. It's for dads and for coaches. It's for people trying to learn how to teach wrestling better. Everybody knows a high crotch. I say something that creates some past learning connecting with your new learning that allows you to understand the move better, or at least how to explain it better. It doesn't matter what I know if I can't get you to do it, right? Like they haven't learned it until you've taught it. Like if they can't do it, you didn't teach them. So that's who it's for. It's for parents and coaches and people like yourself.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just had, I have a ref that comes on, Mike Cipriano, and I had this idea because I'm a parent in the stands. I'm not a coach, so I've heard what parents say in the stands. I hear them next to me, and I know myself being wrestling illiterate, I needed help, right? So I asked him to do the 27 hand signals for me, and
I saw that. That was awesome.
And I did that for me to learn. I got to learn while I went through it with him, but also I think for, like you're saying, for new wrestlers, new parents, coaches to utilize this to give to those folks and say, hey, your kid is entering wrestling. Well, you're going to become a fan. You're going to be sitting in the stands. Trust me, I know you're going to be like, what the hell just happened? Because I've never seen, why did they call two? Why did they put their hand behind their head? Why? Right. What is this? Right. So I created it. So for the same reason, I hope that people can grab it and use it as a source to teach, because I think a lot of the arguments and a lot of the friction happens when parents don't know what's going on down there with the coaches. Nothing against parents. I'm a parent, but if you don't know, you get angry, and that causes you to react a certain way. And
oh yes, and a little knowledge is dangerous.
Yes. So I got Chuck Morris shouting you out. He says Creighton is the man. His fakes changed the game.
Oh, stop it.
That's from Chuck Morris of Morris Wrestling. Shane McCall, love the YouTube content, great information and presentation. I always look forward to his new stuff.
Hey, thanks, Shane.
So there you go, man. So I saw on there that you offer a separate membership to join through YouTube. It says right. Join, and what is the benefit to going away from like the free channel and clicking join and I don't know what it costs, but paying for a membership? What is the difference?
So really, it's to help me just continue to put out content. It's $4.99 a month, so it's basically giving that away as well. But it's time consuming. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy to edit and put videos together, and to get your body in the mood to do it too. So really, it's just trying to keep the channel going, and because it is a lot of work. And the content on there is stuff that really I'm trying to put special stuff on there that maybe I had to go out of my way to purchase myself, or stuff that is really special to me that I'm kind of keeping close to the vest that I think is just worth paying for. So
it's your secret
you know,
stuff.
but really the content is like on the regular channel. I'm trying to put as much quality stuff into that as I possibly can too. But you know, some of the interviews that I'm doing with the high level guys, some of the stuff that I'm going after that's specifically and I end up sharing most of that anyways, either through me teaching what I've learned or just sharing it at a later date. But I think it's trying to put the stuff that I'm working on out there first, so they get a sneak peek of what we're doing, what I'm thinking ahead of time, and where I want the channel to go, and just trying to make them special, make those people that are loyal to me and do the membership part of it and feel special, and give them something more. So, although I appreciate every single one of my subscribers, let me tell you that.
Nice. So that's like your secret sauce right there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Nice. They get like a Creighton train shirt or something.
You know, I'm working on some stuff like that. I'm working on stuff. But there's levels to this. Like, so this is, I'm just sort of starting and dipping my toe in that. But once I go to like a higher level, definitely I plan to have some apparel to go along with that. You can actually buy it on the YouTube channel now, but it's through Teesprings, and I don't actually house this stuff, but it's coming.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
So we want to access your platform. We want to access all your shows. What are the best platforms to go through? Is it only YouTube? Do you have it on IGTV? Is it on Facebook? Is it on Twitter? Are there different areas that we can access you from?
So, you know, I'm still, you impressed me with your organization. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I'm still sort of figuring out the marketing side of it. I do Facebook, I do Instagram, and I do YouTube. I'm barely on Twitter. I have it so when I post to Facebook, it goes to my Twitter feed, but I don't have a huge following on Twitter yet. It's at Brauman, by the way. I do, and I kind of combine my worlds. I think too much. My son tells me, you need to have your personal Facebook, Instagram page, and you need to have your Creighton Train one. But I really don't.
Too, my man. I'm learning too. I think I have like 15 followers on Twitter, and I don't even know how I got them. And so I have no clue. The Instagram is growing. I'm trying to grow it organically. I mean, anybody can go buy a bunch of followers and make it look like you're doing something special. But I think I'm up to like 280 followers there. And then the page, I finally transitioned to the page the middle of May. So we're about 1,200 followers right now. So I get it, man. I know what you're doing. YouTube, I still haven't figured out. So I have the YouTube channel that I started for Word Wrestling Live when I started the show, so that I could basically have a place to store it, like you said. But yeah, I have a other YouTube channel that's just my name, and it's just basically my son's. It's been a storage for my son.
You spoke about that.
Yeah.
You know, Twitter, when I first got a Twitter account, like I would get these emails that said such and such is following you. I'm like, following me?
Yeah.
Following me?
You're looking over your shoulder, right?
What does that mean?
I've never been able to, and maybe I'm just not smart enough to think of something to say on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, it gets, I don't know, and I really try hard not to get political, because I am like, I have things to say, and I want to keep it, and I want to keep my world separated, you know, like George Costanzo. I want to keep my world separated.
There's a lot to say right now. So
yeah. So, you know, that's another part of my YouTube channel. My good buddy and I, Josh Nolan, who it'll probably be another great interview for you sometime. But he's the guy I coached him at San Francisco State, and we developed a relationship there. And I really was like his personal coach there. He became an All-American, and he teaches a lot of the same skill set that I teach. And you know, he's like a mentee of mine, but we've been thick as thieves for years. And so now he's a grown man, and he's got his family, and he's coaching up in the Nevada area. So we do this show called Tough Talk, and we do these interviews, not interviews, but we do this dialogue where we just talk about wrestling. So our latest one was on race, and we brought in Cornell Robinson, who's a good friend of mine. We became friends through the Olympic Training Center and opportunities. And him and I are thick as thieves, and we've gone through some stuff together, and I've seen some of the things that happened to him, and it was just a really good open discussion. We're getting a lot of positive feedback from that one. That was our latest one. And I don't want them all to be about race, but I actually am getting a lot of encouragement that I need to stick with this series because these are conversations that really haven't happened, especially in our sport.
Well, I think that anybody having the conversation, the educated conversation about race or what's going on in our country today is something to listen to. Unfortunately, I feel like the rioting and looting is watering down the protest and the people that are trying to speak the good word and say, hey, race is an issue. And I wish the
Well, here's what I would say about that. And
you know what I mean?
and
So
because we could go deep into that too, but here's what I would say about that is I felt the exact same way. And as a African American, as a Black man, we take on the behavior of other Black people because we're like, don't do that because now white people are going to assume that about all Black people. And so much of our behavior is kind of tailored around what will upset or what will white people accept. And when people deny white privilege, there is the privilege in that. Right there is the freedom to not even have those thoughts, to not have that burden, to go anywhere, be whoever you want, and not have any of the struggles that you will see. White, in this life, there will be trouble. That's biblical, right? That's for all of us. But what you can be assured is it's not because of the color of your skin. And that's the freedom that I don't think a lot of people want to accept or understand all the way. And that's what I can explain to you. And I can give you stories, I can give you, but it's a here's the thing. And I've had a buddy, I've got a couple buddies that have spent some time in other countries, and they go, man, Brauman, I knew how you felt being the only one. I know how you felt. I know you felt. I go, yeah, but you came home. You came home. And so there's nowhere that I can go and escape racism. I can't escape it. And so that's a freedom, a freedom that's not afforded.
I'm afraid for a lot of things, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so my father was a police officer till 2001, a week after 9/11, he retired. He fought against racial injustice, and he was a white Irish cop, and he fought against it, and it almost costed him his career. It costed a lot of his friends their career.
Oh yeah.
Demoted.
Oh, yeah.
And because
that's how badly people want to subjugate another race. They want to fight for it.
Well, he went against a chief that was after Black America, right? And and he won, and it was good, but it was tough on our family and our life.
Yeah.
Being part Jewish, I had to go with a lot of anti-Semitic things.
Oh yes,
that went on. Being Irish, I've seen ancestors and talked to people who have went through a lot of similar situations.
So that makes you empathetic, and I think that you almost have to go through something to be empathetic. You have to be discriminated against to understand how discrimination works and how it feels. You have to, and on a level where you can still, they had to know you, like you could still be invisible, though. You could come over, you could, so those kids had to know that about you, where I can't pass, I can't hide, I can't pretend.
I can never know what it's like to walk in a woman's body.
Yeah.
I can never know what it's like to walk in a Black person's body. I can never know that because I'll never be that.
So back to the riots thing for 1 second. I wanted to address that, and then I want to tell you this thought I had that is really kind of funny and interesting, and I think you'll find it fascinating. So I felt the same way about the rioting because I felt it reflected bad on Black people. Then I also recognized too that it wasn't just Black people that were rioting, and that there was other groups that were rioting. But then also, as I did more thinking and more research, and I look back to 1964 and 65 and 67, 68, and and the things that happened during that time, if nothing happens, nothing happens. If you peacefully protest, there's no change. If you kneel on the field, they condemn you. If there's no right way to protest that's going to make the white power structure listen until it burns.
Well,
And that's what that might be controversial, and that's controversial, but it is.
But
it is.
It's the power structure, because let's be honest, there's a lot of different ethnicities and colored people that are in those power seats that are doing and backing the same subjects. But as far as protesting,
not systematically, not from a systematic point. No.
Yeah. But there's protesting and there's looting and rioting. They are not the same. They are two different, totally different.
I totally agree. But
you have to
without
protest, you can protest and be out in the streets. You can protest and you're shutting cities down. You can protest. We've seen areas of our country where there are mass protesters, and they're not doing it peacefully, but they're not doing it by looting and rioting. And
I'm not condoning looting and rioting. All I'm saying is that it's part of the process, and part of what it's a sign of. It's the voice of the frustrated. It's the voice of the powerless, is what I'm saying. And if you were as powerless as my people have been for all this time, this is the voice. This is the only way. You're not listening, and so this is the only way that we can be heard. And I'm not condoning. I'm saying it's part of the process for anything to happen, dramatic change to happen, because peaceful protests are not listened to and not changed, and they don't move the needle. And it never has. You can look at history. You want to know what a riot is, okay? Rioting is like, okay, you're looting, you destroy some property. Rioting is when people get killed and dogs are sicked on them. You want to know about a riot? 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the Greendale district, there was a riot that killed over 150 Black people when they literally ravaged this town. They literally dropped bombs on American citizens in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's what a riot is. This stuff that we've seen, that's not really a riot. That's not a riot. When people are being savagely murdered and terrorized, and 150, and this was not even taken out of history books. Like, did you know anything about Black Wall Street? Do you know anything about Black Wall Street?
I've read briefly. I've seen some things about it. I've Googled some of it.
Just as of late, though, just recently, though, right?
Not recently, but what do you say to, and I can't believe we got this direction, but since we're doing it,
I kind of knew it was going to happen, though.
What do you say to the facts that state that more white people are killed by cops in our country than Black people?
Well, there's more white people than Black people. There's Black people only represent 13 to 16% of the population, but we're 90% of the prison population. And that's why it's simple math.
Sure. What do you say to, and I'm asking these.
It'd be like saying, hey, there's more Chinese people killed in China than there is Black people. Well, sure. Really?
Sure. Well,
and you know what? There's not, the numbers aren't put in. They don't give you the correct numbers about. You don't have those statistics anyways, because they don't report those numbers. So to say that more white people are killed by Black people, we don't know that. We don't know that because they don't want to give that information up.
And how about the numbers that state that a lot of Black cops are killing Black America?
That can go, but well, first of all, the numbers of Black cops to white cops is infinitesimal. Is so infinite. I mean, so tiny, so minuscule of the number of Black cops to white cops. That's the first off across the board. But that goes back to when they had Blacks have been killing Blacks for a long time, and that was also perpetuated on us by the slave trade. Here's some like facts that people don't understand. It all has to be taken in context of slavery. And I used as a child going to a suburban school, I really didn't want to talk about slavery. I don't want to talk about slavery. I don't want to talk. I mean, I'm trying to minimize the differences between me and my classmates already. So then you bring up slavery, and everybody looks at you and goes, "That's a slave." I've like, as an adult, I've become proud of my slave heritage, and it's taken on a whole new meaning for me as a Black man. But
in my experience, I think old Black America is. I've had a lot better experiences with old Black America or conversations with old Black America than new ones. People that have actually experienced race wars that Black America now and this generation will never experience. And sitting and talking to them and understanding.
I don't know. Did you see what happened to Floyd? That was pretty brutal. Did you see what happened to Ahmaud Arbery?
I think that there are brutal things.
That wasn't much different than.
I could bring up several other ethnicities that were brutalized by bad police officers too, and they're wrong.
Bring them up. Let's talk about them. Where are they? I want to see those examples.
Yes, and we can pull them up. But my concern is, where do we draw a line now? This is me asking you, what is a permitted crime? What is a permit? First of all, what happened to Floyd? I don't care what he did. He could have murdered, raped, killed, savaged. The history on Floyd is that he's not a good person or a human in society. No. But he doesn't deserve what happened to him. There's nothing that deserves putting a knee on your neck for 8.5 minutes. So I'm agreeing that should not have happened. No matter what type of
anybody that says that should have happened is a savage. So here's the thing.
Right. No,
here's the thing though, is if he were white, would that have happened? Everything's the same.
It could have.
No. No. Because
I don't know that.
No, well, where's the images of that?
Well, those images don't move the needle. We're not going to see.
No, well, they don't. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that.
The modern media.
Let me just get to my point which was the point goes back to and you can't get around that. 1619 when the first slaves came over here, and there's such an ignorance about slavery, and like want to go, that was so long ago, and like that doesn't affect what happened today. It has everything to do with today and all the and I'm not here to disavow the struggles of the Black community. I wish the Black community could be more like the Jewish community in a lot of ways.
I really do. Right. I think, and I have a friend. I have a black friend from LA who says that one of his goals in life is to be able to go into Black America and educate them on how the Jews.
Well, here's what I know, because I have lots of Jewish friends and people in my life and athletes that I coach and families that I work with, and they are about each other. They are about education. They're about institution, having wealth within their people. And that's awesome. And that's strong, and that's powerful, and that gives them strength in numbers. And that's something that our community doesn't have. But I digress, because there's so many reasons for it. And here's what I want some people to know that don't understand this. I'm sure I can get the people that won't hear me on this, but if you go back to slavery, it was all done intentional. We were never intended to be anything but slaves. There was a civil war fought over the right to keep slaves. So the most bloodiest war in history, in United States history, was fought over the right to keep slaves. So there's a strong tight hold on the right to subjugate other people. And this myth of white supremacy has been perpetuated throughout society for all time. And it's done in the classrooms. Just like when I was in school, I didn't know about all history. They take out the settlers. They were settlers. They came here and they savaged the Indians, and the Indian Removal Act. They tried to make the Indian slaves first.
You're breaking up.
and then they died. They got sick. They were too weak. Am I back? Am I back?
A little bit. Your internet. There we go. I can see you now.
Okay.
I'm plugged into a hard wire now.
So just yeah, I gotta get better at this. I get excited, Lord, but
no, I get excited too. But one thing I know is if I like the Eagles and you like the
Steelers,
Steelers.
I'm a Niners guy actually, but
Yeah.
not even too deep. But there's a whole story behind that too.
Yeah.
I would say there's a lot of stuff done systematically to destroy the black family, to put the black woman ahead of the black man through slavery, to separate us. And then when slavery went away, it went to sharecropping and indentured servants. Then when that went away, then it goes to Jim Crow laws. Then when Jim Crow's not cool anymore, then it's the criminal justice system. And once you you can't be part of society. And there's so many more opportunities in the bad ways for blacks than there is for good ways, because we're kept out of those opportunities. And then when you get into those opportunities, the experience is so brutal that they literally push you out or you just quit. And I'm not making excuses, but I will say this: wrestling has helped me become the gift of wrestling. And a lot of black men that if they had wrestling, they'd still be in the fight.
I lost you.
Because you're gonna get knocked down, and you gotta fight off your back. You can't fight off your back, you're gonna lose.
Yeah, I agree with. I agree with
so it's fighting for my family.
Yeah, I don't
Go
disagree
ahead.
with that. I can't. You're breaking up really badly.
My bad. I'm in my garage, but I got one of those pods out here. It usually does a better job than this. Come back?
Yeah,
Back?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you a little bit. Yeah. All right, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm here.
I see you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can
Can you
hear
hear me?
Yeah, you sound a little
Okay.
bit like Darth Vader, but we're getting better.
I've been told that.
Yeah.
I'm told
I mean, obviously, race is not a conversation that most people are comfortable having, so that's why it's probably not had as often as it should be.
No, and I appreciate you having it too.
There are, I did come from a background of a lot of generations of law enforcement that were not bad cops, and were not racist, and were not prejudiced, and were not any of that, and fought against that stuff. So I understand that it happens. Fortunately, I was always in sports growing up, and I've never been in situations where I've had to think, that's a black guy, that's a Spanish guy, that's a white guy, that's a Indian. It doesn't matter to me. I've never had those thoughts. So,
Well, let me just say that. Let me just say this. That's what white privilege is.
well, I'm definitely privileged to be able to not be racist.
You don't have to. No, that's not what I'm talking about. The fact that you don't have to think about it. That's the privilege.
And I mean, I knew it was there. I'm not an idiot, right? I knew it was there, but I was never raised.
So
I wasn't raised. You're breaking up, so that's why I'm talking over you. I apologize.
Let me see if I can move to somewhere else where I can actually get a little bit better. Okay, I'm gonna be in here for a second. Can I have a space here? Yeah. Sarah, okay, I'll go in the bedroom. I'll go to bed. It's all good. Okay, so what I was saying is, my room's all messy. Is that, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
You can hear me now.
I
See me? Can you see me now?
Yeah, you're frozen right now, but should be coming back in the picture here shortly.
All right, can you hear me now? Is this better?
I can hear you. Yes, I can't. You're not unfrozen yet, but I can hear you. There we go. I see you now.
Okay, it should be. All right. Okay. So the thing is,
I don't. What I'm saying is,
me?
I was white privileged. I was privileged enough to be raised by parents that didn't have to. That taught me that we're all treated equal.
That's great, and I know, right? But what I keep hearing is like, I think there's a difference, and this is kind of becoming the mainstream. It's either you're anti-racist or you're a racist, and so being not racist is so if you condoning racism is racism, or not speaking up, or obviously, like to actually keep somebody out of a job, or and I think everybody has the right to be friends with who they want to be friends with. If you don't want to be friends with this different culture because you don't feel comfortable around that culture, then that, but it doesn't make you not racist because you don't discriminate about discriminate. I think when you become a person that actually stands up to racism and recognize to Black people specifically, and acknowledges that, and doesn't go, well, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, or if you just stop resisting arrest, or if you just stop, hanging out in the ghetto, or if you just work harder in school. They don't realize there's been so many things in all these ways. And so, yeah, a lot of people, I'm fortunate that I had good parents that said, no, you're going to go to school, you're going to get good grades, you're going to win these matches, you're going to go to practice. And I did what I was told. And so that was my own affluence. It allowed me, but a lot of Black kids don't have the stuff that I had, where they don't have good schooling, and they don't have great nutrition, and they don't have mothers and fathers that are going to hold them accountable, or their father's not there. And my father was in the home.
They don't have parents in the house.
Right.
And,
that's also systematic, and that's also part of the tradition of slavery that comes out of slavery. I want you to understand that, and I want people to understand how you got to read The Color of Law. Okay, if you read The Color of Law, your mind will literally be blown at how diabolical the plans are to subjugate Black people, and how purposely it was done to segregate and keep us away from white, to keep the racism Crow era. Really, the criminal justice system is taking the place of Jim Crow, because once you're in it, you're stuck, and now you're a second-class citizen, and now you must live this caste system life. It's sad but true, and I think just the more people actually understand it, they will have more empathy for people, for Black people.
I wish we. I hope that I hope we get through this. What scares me is there's bad people in every race, in every ethnicity, in every walk of life. There's bad cops, there's bad doctors, there's bad everyone. I just hope that people start to police themselves too, and get those rotten apples out, so that we can have a country.
That'd be great.
Feel like we can live in safely, and I don't think that having no police is the answer. I don't think.
No way. I want to be able to call the police.
Yep.
Police deserve respect. Policing is a hard ass job, and police need to be hard because they have to deal with. It's like wrestling. I was just telling my buddy. I think that this is my opinion on the police thing is. I think many police want to do the best and they want to be perceived as the best. I just don't know if that kindness always is extended to Black people.
I don't think the hiring process is the same as it was 30, 40 years
No.
ago. And from what I understand, before, a lot of the police officers that came through the military and came through situations where they learned how to control their adrenaline in high stakes situations, where a lot of the generational cops that we're seeing that are coming into the forces today have never been in situations where they've had to deal with their fear or they've had to deal with adrenaline being in a situation like that.
Did you see the stuff in Atlanta just the other day with the latest?
I saw it.
Didn't.
You're breaking up.
Okay. You did see the Wendy's one with the cop that shot the guy in the back at Wendy's.
I heard about it.
So this was kind of like it relates to wrestling because there was a calm situation. He was drunk. He fell asleep in the drive-thru. So obviously he was going to get food late night at the Wendy's drive-thru and fell asleep waiting at the drive-thru, waiting for his food, right? They call the cops on him, rightfully so. The police come, it's calm. Then they decide to take him to jail, right? Here's where a lot of like, you can't really argue with his white, would they have drove him home? Would they send him to his sisters? I don't know. Maybe not. I can't say, but I know that does happen for white people.
Well, I think
a lot more than happens for Black people. But
I think it happens.
Say again?
I think it happens more often than we know about for all different colors and races. Because there's a lot of good police out there that are doing a lot of good things with people that we don't hear about because they're not out there talking about it. They just do it and they go home. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree with that. And but when the scuffle happened, and he should not have resisted arrest, okay? But when the scuffle happened, they knew he didn't have a weapon. They'd already patted him down. They knew he was drunk. They had his car. They had his license, okay?
Is that the one that grabbed the taser?
And yes.
Yeah, so
I think those just got embarrassed, and because this drunk guy beat both of them up, took the taser,
a taser can be considered.
Handled them, took the taser, ran away.
I guess from what I understand is a taser can be considered a deadly weapon because if, let's say, that guy were to tase the police officer, then the police officer is out of commission, can't control or protect himself. The gun could be taken. So I guess there's arguments that could be.
Well, here's the other thing. Don't tasers take a little while to regenerate too? Once you use a taser.
I've never.
Like you can't just fire a taser.
Yeah, you could be 100% correct. I don't know. I know that when my father was I know many years ago when they brought mace and they brought tasers, police officers, in order to carry them, were supposed to go through being tased and maced. I don't know if that's still something that happens today. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So I don't know if that happens today, and I can't hear you, and it sucks because I really want to have a conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Damn it. Sorry, Coach. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he fires the taser. Well, I'm pretty confident that it takes him a while to regenerate. You can't just pop tasers. It's like one tase, it has to regenerate. And so when he fired the taser, the cop knows all this information, knows he doesn't have the weapon, and he unloads three times in the guy's back. There's just that's unbelievable to me. And he could have let him run. He could have shot him. He could have chased him down. He could have rolled by him in his car. There's no way that happens. And it goes back to this devaluing of blacks and black lives and black bodies, because if that was a white kid in the suburbs, they'd have drove him home. They'd have drove him home and dropped him off at his mom and said, damn, we don't want to see you.
I can just go by my experiences in life. And obviously I've never experienced being a black person, but I know I grew up around police officers my whole youth life. And I was in the back of the pickup truck with many ethnical, Spanish, black, white, all of us. And my dad would coached and he did a lot of things. So I don't know. I think there are a lot of police officers out there that we don't know about and we don't hear about that do take them home to their mom's house and their parents' house and try to.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this case, these guys were not trained well. They couldn't handle him 2-on-1, and they were embarrassed. It was about their manhood too. It was about devaluing this guy, but also about there's a line of people watching it, right? That are just waiting for their food, and they all saw this guy basically handle these 2 white cops, and literally, I was kind of joking about it. Like, you could have just put the cuffs on the cops and got in your car and went home.
Well, the same thing is what they're saying about why, there used to be a time where the public would jump in and try to help. And now more people are interested in videotaping the police officer or the subject getting killed or hurt.
Why would a unarmed civilian step into a police situation in any circumstance? That sounds like a suicide mission to me.
Oh, no, I understand, but there used to be a time where these things happen. I mean, there used to be a time where we grew up in our elementary schools, and at least once a week we had a police officer in front of our class talking to us and educating us, and we got to meet them and understand that things are happening, so that when we were out and about, we understood they're the good guys. I don't know why that doesn't happen anymore. I don't.
Maybe that's not a bad suggestion, and maybe that there's tons of distrust with the police and the black community.
Yes, there used to be the PAL programs. I think they're starting to come back. But when I was a kid, the PAL there were not these private sports leagues or these private youth leagues. There were PAL leagues and park leagues, and they were all
PAL, right. There's a PAL very close to me that a good friend of mine runs, and it's an awesome program.
And they were all coached by, when I was growing up, it was all cops off duty, coaching these kids and being in the communities and in the center of the cities and in the inner cities, suburbs, inner cities, wherever it was. And we would travel on buses and we got to meet, hey, my coach is also a policeman, and it was a different relationships that we were having. And then of course, there's AAU, and now there's
one of the smart people I know, and one of the best humans I know is a sergeant. He's a retired sergeant. I went to my master's program with him. He's a champion for social justice. He will break down to me, educate me on policing and the origins of policing. But you have to also understand police. Do you know the origins of policing what's the first police unit? They were there to do what?
They're there to police the situation.
No, but I mean, the first police their job was to do what?
Tell me.
Capture runaway slaves. That was the first police. The badges.
What my dad tries to teach young police officers, and I don't know if he's still doing that today. He's got another career he's into now, but when he was teaching young officers coming on to the force, he would try to teach them where police officers get themselves in trouble is when they're trying to be the judge and the jury. That's when you have what happened in the Wendy's parking lot. That's when you have the guy sitting on someone's throat for 10 minutes. That's when you have a police officer bashing some guy's face against the thing that's already contained. Once you have somebody detained, your job is to walk in, police the situation. Now, if you feel like your life is threatened, you or me have never been in that situation where our life was threatened. So, I mean, as far as a gun to our head, I don't know if you have. I know
I've been in some terrible situations.
I've been in some bad situations, but never as a police officer.
No.
So I don't know what it's like to drive through a city and get bottles thrown at me or called names, regardless.
One of my athletes that is now a police officer who's near and dear to my heart. His name is Donald Lockett. He's a police officer, and he started in Oakland. Now he's in San Francisco. And he would laugh to me when he first became a cop. He's like, "Coach, I don't know why I became a cop." He's like, I should have became a fireman. He's like, nobody ever says "fuck the fireman." Excuse my language.
Yeah, so I don't know now,
And,
but you're
and
supposed to police.
so I get that, and I
My
know
dad was a juvenile detective, and he said, Dan, there was times where I wanted to kill the parents, but I can't. I'm there to police the situation,
Yeah.
walk in, police it, move on.
But the police means though protect and serve. They're there to protect and serve. So that guy that got shot in the parking lot in his back 3 times for sleeping for really a DUI really, and they didn't even catch him driving drunk. He was in his car drunk. But so you come to the scene because a guy's sleeping in his car and the man ends up dead. So I don't know how that is protect and serve.
Well, it's a sad situation where anybody ends up dead, whether it's a policeman or it's a person in the public.
Well, think about the Floyd situation. They went there because of a $20 counterfeit bill. So this man ends up dead because of a $20 counterfeit bill.
Well, there's no reason for George Floyd to be dead due to what happened to him. I agree with you. George Floyd was not a good.
What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything?
Well, it doesn't mean he deserves to die.
So it's like, I've heard that, and I've heard that point. I don't know if you know who Candace Owens is, and she went on this whole diatribe about how horrible Floyd was, and Floyd was this, and Floyd was that. Here's what I want to explain to people that say that Floyd was this drug addict and bad guy: is Floyd had a life of what happens sometimes to black people, and almost every black person I know and there has somebody in their family that's like a George Floyd, and we love them dearly.
But that's the default. That's the defense.
We love them dearly.
The defense is that they came from this situation. Do you know what it's like being in a house? What do you think they saw growing up? Do you know what this is? That's the defense against being a bad person. But I think you can still. There's a lot of good people that grew up out of the same neighborhoods and the same families that bad people came from.
I have this screenplay that I would like to write. Okay. I'm going to tell you the premise of the screenplay. Okay. This is fascinating, I think. And if somebody steals it and beats me to it because I don't have the resources, I'll be like, sweet, at least it got made. It was my idea, because I'd love to see this made. My wife had me watch this movie. We'll make it a little lighter now. My wife had me watch this movie, and it was about it was a French movie, and it was subtitled, and it was this powerful French guy, and he was a macho man guy, and he woke up one morning and the world was flipped, and women were in men's roles, and men were in women's roles, and women were in men's roles, and the women were like grabbing their crotch and spitting and telling them to go get in the kitchen and cook, and the men were wearing around short shorts and getting whistled at by women and stuff like that.
You want to create a movie where
I went
privilege and not white privilege, right?
I went, oh my God. The first time in my life, I was like, that would suck to be a woman. Oh, that would suck. I would lose my mind. People were pinching my butt, and I felt like a piece of meat, and I got no respect. Nobody was listening to me, and
you didn't hear the Chappelle talk about that time in New York where he was a young comedian, and he said he thought about, if I had something in my bag that was like $1 million that someone gave me, and I was in the subway and I was in this and I'm trying to get home, and for the first time in my life, I felt like everybody was after me for something I had. Yeah. And he said, that's unfortunately what a woman feels like
right.
every single day, right? That's
hilarious.
Yeah.
And my wife tells me stories about stuff that happened to her in high school and getting groped and stuff like that. I'm like, I just couldn't. What I would like to do is not just do a black privilege. I want to take us back to like Jim Crow. So like 1965, and then put it around a really mean, bigoted white man, and then have him wake up the next day and it's flipped, and you're in Jim Crow South, but the black people are in charge now.
Well, yeah. So you want to make was the movie?
Don't steal my thunder here. Let me get it up.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
And he comes back, and then but the stories around the white guy ends up being the hero, just like always, because it's going to come back, and he's going to realize the folly of his ways, and he's going to come back, and it's going to come back to life, and he's going to be the greatest champion but in my movie, we'll come back to life, and it will be this utopia society where we actually are even, where it's actual equality, and blacks are in high places and whites are in high places, and we're all treated right, and it's this utopian world.
Didn't
And
Eddie Murphy do that movie?
no, that's Brauman Creighton, man. Brauman Creighton's doing that movie.
Trading Places have something to do with that?
No. That is one of the best movies, though. I can probably quote that whole movie to you.
I think
This is for my brain, man.
And
is that a brilliant idea or what?
I love it. And I'm going to get back to your YouTube.
You would lose your mind, I think.
No, I would love it. I don't mind. I don't mind it. I believe that race is still an issue. Unfortunately, I understand that. I'm not an idiot or naive to America.
Please.
But I do believe that women and black folks are doing better in America than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. But there are still substantial steps that need to be taken.
In a way, I feel like we were doing better in the 80s than we are now.
I just would like to see us get back to that. Unfortunately, there's going to be people out there, I think, for all of eternity that have been born with some sort of hate in their heart and have been taught this in their house.
It's deep, bro. It's so deep. It's so deep. And here's I'll say this, and I gotta, and you know, I know you got other interviews to do today, but and I got some stuff I gotta get to, but I'll say this, you know, it's a lot of this is a direct result of Barack Obama and the election of Barack Obama putting a black man in the White House, and just the fact that it's called the White House. I think we should change the name of the White. Why is it the White House? That says a whole. And you know, Nixon said back when he was president, "I'm trying to keep the White House white for you white people," and that was said like by the president. Like, and I don't think it would be out of pocket to say Trump. Here's Trump saying something very similar to that, and he's basically said that. He puts a picture of Andrew Jackson behind his desk. I think the message is clear. Okay. And Barack Obama said himself, he might've been too soon, because this repudiation of Barack Obama and this total flip, I do think Hillary Clinton could possibly be the worst candidate of all time, but I don't think it had a lot to do with Barack and what we're going through right now. And Barack could have been the greatest president of all time. He could have closed the hole in the ozone layer, put $1,000 in everybody's pocket every month, erase the deficit. They'd still find a reason to hate him.
I think every president never gets the. I'm not telling you. I'm saying that our presidents, no matter what they do, no matter how good they do it, like you said, put an ozone patch in the layer.
Right.
They're never highly respected or highly talked about, because there's always half the people love you, half the people. It's like I don't know. You're in Chicago, you got White Sox fans and Cubs fans, right? No matter what you say or what you do, I like them and you like them, and it's unfortunate, but I tell people politics, religion, and your favorite football team or sporting team is hard to argue, because people have beliefs and views, and
they're dug in.
And it's, you know, I'm going to say Ron Jaworski was the best quarterback, and you might say
you'd be crazy to say that,
right? Yeah. And,
Jaws. Come on.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks that.
Right. Nobody thinks that.
Oh, because he was Jewish. Because he was Jewish. That's why you like him. That's why you like him.
At a time, there was my favorite quarterback of all time.
I am.
Yeah. My favorite quarterback of all time was Dan Marino. I grew up in South Florida. He was my guy, right?
He kind of looks Jewish. He got this curly hair.
My favorite Eagles quarterback of all time was Randall Cunningham. Loved Randall Cunningham. I loved him there. I loved him in Minnesota. I love his story. I love what he went through, having to go through the process he went through. I love the way he kept his head up and talked about it afterwards.
Hey, look, now all the quarterbacks are black. Look at that.
Yeah.
Back then, he had to fight. He had to fight to be.
And they better not. And they can't take a knee because it'll cost them 2 points.
Right.
So, listen.
I think the NFL owes Colin an apology, but that's a whole nother topic too.
I think we're moving to a different direction.
Yeah.
the world hopefully becomes a better place through all this.
Yes.
So,
That was cathartic to talk about, but thank you for listening.
yeah, I think we had a good conversation. I don't mind. I try to speak your feelings sometimes, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. And I'm willing to listen too. I'm not, I don't.
I think it's very difficult to be all right or all left. I think you have to, and I don't find just getting to know you through this platform and seeing what you do and seeing what you're involved in. Nobody who's racist, prejudiced, whatever, nobody who has hate in their heart towards one race or one ethnicity becomes a teacher or a coach. So I feel like even though you have your thoughts and your beliefs and the conversation and you will speak your mind, in no way do I ever feel like you are black power, white power, or this power, that power.
My wife's Caucasian. My
Yeah.
kids, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, I love them dearly.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends are Caucasian. I grew up, the thing is, I have a unique.
My family is Hispanic, so my wife's Hispanic, my kids are Hispanic. My son had a situation once where he was told to go back to Mexico, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Puerto Rican, dummy."
Right.
No,
Right.
So
I had a kid when I was coaching Nebraska. He was a Filipino kid at this all white school, basically. And I pulled him aside. I said, "They don't know what you are, do they?" He's like, "No, coach. No, coach."
no, yeah, and so I think
They think you're Chinese, don't they? I get Chinese. I get
unfortunately, people from 30,000 feet will look at people having a conversation and just automatically assume that they're pro-black or pro-white or pro-Puerto Rican or pro-Mexican when we're just having a conversation. So you're telling me we can't talk about our favorite football teams and have an argument or a discussion and be friends afterwards? Why not? Just
Right.
because we have discussions doesn't mean we can't go out for a beer afterwards.
My
People
thing, coach,
do that.
is that I want just to educate. My thing. I'm not judging you. I'm not condemning you or anybody else that is willing to listen. And I get defensive about denials of racism. I get defensive about denials of white privilege. But outside of those things, I'm not condemning anybody because I would be there for the grace of God. There for the grace of God, I would be just like
I
you.
also think your definition of white privilege is from an educated aspect on you believe a certain white privilege believes that you get to live in a world where you're white and not black, and that allows you certain things. I think other people that are saying white privilege believe because I'm white, I'm born wealthy, because I'm white, I'm born
Right. Oh no.
because
No.
which is so far from the truth, because we can take you to so many white American
Oh
towns,
my gosh.
terrible poverty situation.
Without a doubt. I
Just
can't
like,
say any better than this, that it doesn't mean you don't struggle. It just means your struggles aren't attributed to your race. That's it. That's
Right.
what white privilege is. But
and I
that's a
think
huge thing. That's huge though.
but the youth that are out there, the youth that are out there doing the fires and things like that of whatever race or color, don't believe that white privilege is the definition you said it. They believe, well, they're white, so
No.
so
I mean,
be-
not the smart people that I've been listening to and talking to.
Yeah, they're not
they-
18. They're not 18, 16, 21.
But what they do feel is real, and it cannot be unvalidated. And it's the discrimination and the watching and the, here's the thing too, that it's very easy to get people upset with black people. It's very easy to throw those kids away, or here's a great example. And I think Dave Chappelle said something like this, but I saw it firsthand in my school. So I go to I'm in probably the most liberal place in the world. I don't like that about it, but what it does is it allows for not for to like almost protection for just outright discrimination, because these people are racist too, but they're not proud of it. They're not proud of it, and it's not. And there's enough other ethnicities around that they also face forms of discrimination too. So there's more empathy for it, and empathy is something that's taught, and it's a higher level of education. So that's why I'm here. But the liberal, it doesn't make them any less racist. It's just they just disguise it with elitism.
Yeah,
But
so I just I'm glad to see that police officers and the public are intermingled in this protest, and they're doing it together. And
I've
there's,
seen some of that. I think it's awesome. I saw
I
Mitt
think-
Romney out there
I
that
think it's great.
I thought it was hilarious, and I thought I loved it. I loved
I
it.
just know that, a police officer wakes up in the morning, just like you wake up in the morning, as a black man.
Yeah.
And both goals is to get back home at night. And I think that people need to understand when a person who's not a police officer wakes up and leaves their house, their goal is to get home at the end of the day. And the police officer's goal is to get home at the end of the day. And I think we just
Coach,
need,
I actually don't
we
even
need
like
to work, we need to work better at helping people be able to accomplish that. And
I 100% agree. And there's no way I want to live in a world where I cannot call the police if I need them. But here's what I'm going to say is,
but I don't want to live in a world either where you as a black man, or you as a Hispanic man, or me as a white person has to worry about leaving their house and driving somewhere safely without being harassed. We don't need to live in a world, but we also need to make sure that if no matter the color of your skin, if you're breaking the law, you're going to get in trouble for it, but you shouldn't be killed for it.
and you should also have equal justice under the law, because once you do get into the criminal justice system, we're also not treated equally from that point on. So this is really, it's super deep, and there's so many layers to it.
And the unfortunate thing really is to it, Coach, is that there are really good people in the criminal justice system that are treating people equally, but there's people that are bad in the criminal justice system that are causing the angst that shouldn't be caused. And the problem is, I wish everybody who takes that oath to be a prosecutor, a defense attorney, a law enforcement agent, honors that oath and treats everybody equal. Then we wouldn't have the situations we have. If you can't be a cop, or you can't be an attorney and treat everybody equal and let the law. My dad was a cop for 30 years, I told you. He fought against racial injustice, and he sent a letter out to every single police department in the country to make sure that chief who was calling black people the N-word, and then when he called them out on it, was calling black people Regans, you can understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
He fought him for a few years.
He called him Reagans. I don't get that. What's that about?
What's the N-word backwards? So this chief started going around when he was called on, he started going around doing that. So my father then went to him and said,
I'm not privy to those conversations. That's good. Thank you. I feel like I just learned something.
And my father said to him, okay, well, that's it. I'm coming after you, right? As a good cop, I'm coming after a bad cop, because you're not going to create our police department and make people believe that that's what we're about. And he went after him. When he went after him, his friends were all demoted. He had friends that were fired and took their lives because they lost their career. He was at a point where he might have went through that.
You do that at your own. You do that at your own peril, especially back in the day. I think now there's going to be a lot more sentiment for protecting people that come out.
He did that, and when the chief was found guilty, and my father was given his job back, and my father was given the money that cost him to go through that process, he had a letter written to every single police department in the country so they didn't have to experience someone like him, and make sure that he was not anywhere again. So I've been through it, and I see it, and I watched my family fight for it. So
I guess my thing in response to that, I think fantastic for your dad. What it sounds like an amazing guy, and he's going to obviously leave a legacy.
And he will tell you, if you can't be a cop, go sell fucking ice cream.
But my question is, and I think this is why I don't like the police, because the police conversation, because it gets to think police get defensive, rightfully so, and there's the good cops, and nobody thinks they're guilty of anything. Everybody always wants to see themselves in the best light. I'm not this, I'm not that, but that's beside the point. But it's really not about the cops. If you look at the root cause, is why does that police chief feel that way? Why do those cops feel that way? Why it goes back to the devaluing of blacks in general.
And I don't, and we're going to move on here so we can finish this up, but I don't like, we're not comparing apples to apples sometimes. You have a bad cop, and in your mind, I agree with you. The bad cop that did that to George Floyd, that one bad cop would not have done that if it was a white person. I agree with your thought process on that. That one guy, and there may be bad guys like that. you can't then take a picture of a police officer that we don't even know, we don't even meet, and he's on the street giving water to somebody that's a white person, and say, well, that guy wouldn't do that for the black guy, because we don't know if that cop would have done that for the black guy or not. That could just be a photo of a really good police officer that's involved in the community that somebody got. So
Well, it just happens though that
just like all rioters and looters do not represent all the good protesters, just like bad cops don't represent all cops.
right, but that's not my point. So my point is that we're trying to attack the symptom, which is the symptom is police brutality. The cause comes back from all the way back to the beginning, which is this group of people is not worth as much, and that has been subjugated, and that has been promoted throughout society, through education, through systems, through laws, through policies. I don't really have just to keep it 100, I don't have a lot of hope that we can change people's hearts and minds. Especially I go on Facebook, I'm just like, I'm disheartened by all the people digging in, all the people defending the Confederate flag that don't even know what the Confederate flag means, all the people defending this, people that don't like what's going on in the world right now, don't want to see this revolution. Okay. And so I don't have a lot of faith that we'll change their hearts and minds. What I want changed is the laws and the policies and just like the thing with the Civil Rights Act just today extending to gay people. How can that be? And here's another point, and then I'll get off of it, and then we can talk about wrestling for a second before we get off. But and I was going to tell you this earlier, I go to a super liberal school, and this is what Dave Chappelle was on. I teach a super liberal school, the most liberal place in the world. It's icky at times. It's icky. Okay. And I mean, I got friends that would like hate it here. And I got some other people that would probably really like it here if they were from other places. Just if you like nice weather. But my point is they break their backs for the transgender kids, for the kids with sexual identity issues, and that, they don't want to be called by pronouns he and she. I mean, we literally can't use the pronoun he and she. If we don't use their first, I call kids by their name. I don't call, so I really have to work hard to, I don't, hey, her over there, go over there with them, or the boys. There's no splitting boys and girls. There's no, and we had this training about it, and I got called in for I think for using a pronoun for somebody that, and you get in trouble because they are offended by somebody else's. You can get in trouble by somebody else telling you on somebody that they overheard something that was offensive. It wasn't even directed at them. And so it's hyper politically correct. And one of the teachers is giving a training and going, don't be afraid to make a mistake. And I'm like, yeah, you can be afraid. You don't need to be afraid to make a mistake. I have to be definitely afraid of making a mistake because I'll get called on the carpet for it big time. And more to that point, they're mainly white kids that are doing this, that are having these issues on our campus. And my contention is if those were a bunch of black kids and had those issues, nobody would care. Nobody would care. We wouldn't even be talking about it. It'd be all those little weird kids over there and scrape them off. But because they're white kids, it just reeks of white privilege. How they literally leaped over us in the civil rights battle, basically, and especially in schools. And I'm not saying anything negative about that, but I believe in LGBTQ rights without a doubt, because I have gay people in my life and teachers and colleagues and friends that are gay, and I know how painful it is, and nobody would choose that pain. Nobody would choose that. Nobody that I know that's gay would actually choose it. I want to be that.
So I don't think you as a black man can rightfully say somebody fighting to be who they are is wrong.
Right. As a black man, white man, as a person, how can you say that?
Right.
Right. But I do know that if those kids were black, nobody would care. It would not be as big of an issue.
And I think there's people on the other side that there are situations that happen where they say if that was a black kid that did that and not a white kid, we wouldn't hear about it because it doesn't move the needle, or it's not as polarizing, because the conversation of racism is what is a hot topic, unfortunately.
I think I'm glad, because I think it's opening people's eyes, and it's making people pick a side for, for in a lot of ways. Either you're anti-racist or you're racist, and actually recognizing that.
And let's be honest. Right now, we're in an age where people make money when their videos take off. So we're going to see.
You're gonna make a ton of money on this video right here. I'll tell you that right now.
But we're not going to see. Nobody cares about, unfortunately, anymore, seeing the good Samaritan doing good things for kids of whatever race. And
I'd love seeing those cops. I'd love seeing those white cops.
We like, you and I like seeing them. The problem is nobody's going to go out and intentionally look for that video to throw onto social media, because they're going to get 2 likes and 1 share.
Right.
And they're not going to get 5,000 likes, 100,000 shares, and make money, because that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, I truly believe that there are situations, videos that we see that are acted and choreographed and put out there, unfortunately, and it raises the needle. I think that a lot of what we see, unfortunately, is true and factual. But we're in an age today where, kids damn well are out there going, hey, lay down, I'm going to do this, we're going to put it on video and watch what happens, right? And it's unfortunate that we've come to that. But
I don't get my news from Facebook, and I get my news from a lot of sources. And I actually watch Fox quite a bit because I want to know what's being said. So it's I think you got to go to a lot of different sources to get your news, and if they're saying the same thing in several different places, it's probably true. But
and like you say, California's liberal, somewhere else is Democratic, somewhere else is Republican, somewhere else. So if one subject is thrown out to the news world and we see it on 5 different channels, we hear it 5 different ways. Just like if I had a police officer, a firefighter, a black man, a white man, and a Hispanic man all together, and I gave them one subject, we're going to hear it 5 different ways.
Without a doubt, there's like a Buddhist thing about that. Like if we all had blindfolds on and we were touching an elephant in different parts of the elephant, we'd all think it was something different.
But you know what the most amazing thing is?
Yeah.
If I cut all 5 of those people, what color do they bleed?
And green,
Yeah.
red.
So we're not different.
No. Well, and that's another piece of this education piece, is that we're all really coming from the same. We all originated in Africa. We spread to different parts of the world. People that went to the mountains in the Caucasus Mountains had less sun, so their hair was very light, their eyes are light, and their skin is light. People near the equator, they're very dark, they have dark hair and dark skin. And people that lived over in Asia and they ate a certain nutrition and they lived by the ocean, and their skin, and we all evolve. And I sent out a picture actually in one of my videos. I showed a picture of my great grandfather, and he was actually the brother of the slave owner that owned my grandmother. And so it was this, it's a picture of this white man, and you can actually see my father actually kind of looks like.
You can't change the past. We can only hope to change the future, and nothing that we ever do tomorrow can affect what happened during those days.
But we got to learn about it, though. We got to learn about it.
We can educate ourselves about what happened. We can try to make things better moving forward. But it's just like all you wrestling coaches tell the kids, hey, you just lost. Well, guess what's going to happen tomorrow? The sun's going to come up, and you got to go live your life again, and you got to be better tomorrow.
Good point, Coach.
Be just like I've learned from all you wrestling coaches and the wrestling community over this last 90 days or whatever I've been doing this is, you need to wake up and be 1% better tomorrow than you were today. And if you can do that every day, I think we're going to have a better world. So
I like that. I like that a lot.
Listen, before we get into my 10 questions real quick, you get a lot of really good playlists on Creighton and on Creighton Train and Creighton Wrestling. For a lot of the youth that are stuck at home right now, what playlist are you telling them to go to try to help them get better and get through this?
I like the one that Coach Creighton drills because that really gets you just ideas about how to fix sort of problems in your wrestling, right? Like, if is my kid coming off his knees, his butt coming up in the air? Here's a finish drill. Here's a drill on how to move your feet, stance in motion. Here's an individual drill, and so it's it's pretty wide ranging in the type of topics I cover. But there's probably 100 videos on there just in the Coach Creighton drills part of it, and I think they help. I think they solve problems for coaches. And if I had to have one sort of tagline, that I want to solve problems for you, and so you can make the learning happen faster for your kids. So
Absolutely.
and Coach Creighton drills. I also like the one setups. It's kind of a newer one. Single legs, if you're into single legs. The double leg one's pretty popular. And then if you want more talks like the one we just had, my interviews are on there as well. So
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. When I share everything, I'll make sure. I apologize. We had some hiccups there through the connection, but we still were able to get some good conversation in, and it's healthy to have. And I think
you were a really good sport too, man. You were a really good sport. And
yeah,
neither one of us knew we were going to go there either. So that's kind of.
oh, and I have no anger towards it. I have no problem with it. I think more people need to discuss it. And if it becomes an open topic, and then we need to go home and have a beer afterwards. But
absolutely,
it's what's happening in our life. So understand it. But and it's difficult.
It's two of my favorite topics really is talking about obviously wrestling and wrestling technique, but also talking about social science and the way people interact and race relationships. It's like I've studied it. I know a lot about it, and I'm willing to answer questions that people have. And like when people go, what about this? What about that? What about this example? And I feel like I have real tangible evidence and proof this is why it's like this.
I hate that I have to tell my Spanish children that when you go out in the real world, you need to be careful what you say. You need to be careful what you do. You need to be careful how you act, because you're going to be held to a different standard. I hate that we have to tell children of any color, any race, any ethnicity nowadays that you got to go out and be careful of being you and letting your personality be known, because that could be held against you. And that's shitty, because I want kids to be able to know that you can be the best human you can be. You can live the best dream you can live. And it's very difficult, and it sucks.
It's different. It's different. And I agree with you 100%. And I'll just say it's different in every part of the country as well, because the racism that you get in the South is different than what you get in the Northeast, in the Midwest, and California. I just do one quick story. So me, Mauricio Wright, who's a two-time national champion for San Francisco State, and this other coach wrestler, Virgil Lockett. We're all African Americans. We're coaching at San Francisco State, where we're in credentials. And the RMAC, which is their regional, the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, was in New Mexico, at New Mexico Highlands. So between rounds, we're gassing up the van or the RV or however we got there, whatever we were driving around there. We walk into the gas station, gas up. As we were walking out, this white lady, old, haggard looking, she was drunk, like people that were like living in a bottle. So they looked kind of like poor white trash. And it was somebody sleeping in the back of the car, and then another man in the driver's side. And she screamed at us like right to our faces and called us porch monkeys and said, "You fucking porch monkey," you've been screaming at us. And we literally didn't even say anything back. We just like walked in shock. And the guys, I'm almost done. It's really quick. So we get back in the van, and I'm like, I'm hot. I'm hot. We get in the van, and those guys are like, "What is she talking about?" They're quite, and they're like, Mo's probably 7 or 8 years younger than me, and Virgil's even younger than him. And they're California guys, they're Bay Area California guys. They don't know nothing. They've never been, they've never even heard the term before. And I had to explain to these two young bucks what porch monkeys meant. And like literally nobody could even believe it. Can't even believe it. We were in New Mexico. And so we're on the plane ride home, and we just kind of made light of it. And now we're like going, "Hey, no, you a porch monkey. No, you's a porch monkey." And like laughing at each other. But it's almost like we had to laugh to keep from crying, because it was so.
Isn't that what happens with the N-word too?
Where you flip it and you make it a term of endearment. Yeah, absolutely. That's how that happened a long time.
It happened with the C word, with cracker, with with the spick. Unfortunately, it happens, the N-word, and we affectionately do it, and that's it. But yeah, I mean, listen, I remember moving to Philadelphia. First as a youth, I got recruited for 1 year out of whatever I was going through to play basketball and stuff. And I remember getting thrown up against the wall by a black kid that was a post grad telling me, you people don't belong here, whatever. Philadelphia is a very diverse town. At least it was back then. I remember moving back there, and I love Philadelphia. By the way, I would live in Philadelphia for the rest of my life. I love Philadelphia. It's my heritage. My grandma was from there. However,
I'd love to go. Never been.
yeah. However, I remember my wife and I, who's Hispanic, and at the time we were just girlfriend and boyfriend. She was going to school. I remember walking into a Best Buy and having people look at us like, why is a white and Hispanic girl together? Now, this was obviously before 9/11, and hopefully we've come a long way. But I love Philly. I love Pennsylvania. I love the town. But I wish that you and I didn't have those stories to share.
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm just recently sharing these stories for the first time because I understood the message, which is we don't, white people weren't trying to hear that. Ain't trying to hear that. They're not trying to hear that. And then they don't want to hear about, they want you to put your hands in your pocket and just go along and let it, be quiet about it. And so it's just really as of late that I felt emboldened to tell my story and any of my stories and share the stories of my friends and colleagues and family. And that's why when people want to bash Floyd, it's so painful because like, that's where you go with it. You're more upset with what type of life he lived than the fact that he was murdered on camera. And you don't have any, and your family's all angels. And if they did something, if they had a drug problem, they deserve to be murdered like that.
I think somebody who has the conversation that says because he was a bad person, he deserved to die is incorrect. I don't, that's why I said whether or not, and Dave Chappelle said the same thing, whether or not he was a terrible person to society doesn't mean he deserved to have what happened to him.
And we didn't pick him. You picked him. That's what Dave Chappelle said. That Chauvin, he's the one that made him he's a symbol, is what he is.
That's why we have jails. That's why we have judges. He was breaking the law. You arrest him. Once you have him in custody, you take him to the jail. You move on to your next call.
Right.
It shouldn't be that way. But
well,
hey, so
we're gonna find out that Chauvin knew George Floyd before too. So I think it's even deeper than that. And that's all going to come out.
And I understand the history between criminals, or everyday criminals in your neighborhoods. As I would drive around with my dad as a young kid, and there would be people that he arrested 4 or 5 times, and they'd be like, "Hey, Officer Ward," and he'd be like, "Hey, Johnny, don't let me catch you today." You know what I mean? Like, but that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be, "Hey, if I catch you again, I'm going to kill you."
Well, if I know you by your first name and we have that sort of relationship, then obviously you're not going to kill me.
Right.
Obviously you have some sort of relationship, and and that's why we need community policing. But that's a whole nother topic. But okay, get you.
I understand I got these questions, but I was a young kid that would sit up at night waiting for my dad and wondering if he's safe. And I hope that everybody out there is being safe. Cops, humans, blacks, whites, Hispanics, whatever. I hope everyone can live a free life, and it gets better from that. So
cops deserve respect. There's no doubt about that. They deserve respect.
Yeah. And I think in every aspect of life, most people are good, but that small percentage really fucks it up for everybody else. The Refuge or In-N-Out Burger?
I don't even know what the Refuge is, so I'll say In-N-Out.
All right, deep dish or California thin crust?
Thin crust, baby.
You like that sourdough bread or the Italian rolls?
Italian rolls.
Abalone or sand dabs? I guess you guys have out there.
Sand dabs. What's the sand dab?
I like this little shell type fish. I guess I saw that.
I'd probably rather have that. I've had abalone. I'm not a fan.
Okay. Street tacos or hard tacos?
Ooh, hard tacos. Hard tacos.
You like the Mission District or Chinatown?
Mission District. Got to have the good taqueria spot. Taqueria.
Nice. You prefer the cable cars or the street trolleys?
The cable cars. I'm over that though. That's a lifetime ago. That tourist stuff.
The bay shrimp or the Dungeness crabs?
Crap, all day.
I have here YouTube or IGTV.
YouTube.
And then are you going San Francisco Giants or San Francisco 49ers?
You know, I love both teams. I say love because I've been to several games. Giants is very in vogue to be a Giants fan. It's kind of like the wine crowd. Go to Giants games, sip wine with your pinkies up. But it's great. It's a great atmosphere. I've never had a bad time at a Giants game. Niners, you're sitting in these little tiny hot seats, baking in the sun. I'm really happy the Niners are doing so well. I'm still sort of pissed off about Colin Kaepernick because, you know, they look like they're talking out of two sides of their mouth. I became a Niners fan at this. I came to the Bay. I was a Huskers fan. I didn't have a pro team. Grew up with the Bears, but I can't claim the Bears. I'm not from Chicago. And you had the Denver Broncos. And yeah, but now I got all these pro teams. I'm going to pick a team. My buddy's like, hey, let's get season tickets to the Raiders. I went to the Raiders. I don't know if you remember Jamarcus Russell.
I do.
And they lost every game.
Yeah.
Every game.
He was
And
one of those athletes that didn't make the transition well.
oh my God. The fans were beer swilling, cursing sailors. I want to take my kid to a game. There's no way I can take my kid to this environment. I became an anti-Raiders fan. I'm like, I hate the Raiders. And then I joined the Niners. I've been a Niners fan.
Nice. So are you more? Would you be a Joe Montana guy or a Steve Young guy?
I'm a Steve Young guy.
Steve Young guy, nice.
But I'm also like, that's before my time, Joe. Not time watching football, just before my time being into football. Steve Young. Actually, my kid, my wife teaches at a school where Steve Young's kids go to school. And so Steve Young's family did this whole like coffee room for the teachers and like put in all this fancy coffee machines.
He's apparently he's a real great man. I mean, he's
a very nice guy. He's a very nice guy.
I've heard that he does a lot for a lot of people in that area. So good for him.
And I love listening to him speak about football. He's one of the few guys that I really think knows football in and out, and you know the art of the quarterbacking, and he gets excited and he's so articulate. So I'm a big Steve Young fan.
Good. Hey man, I appreciate you doing this. This is the longest interview I think I've had. And,
I talked your ear off. I'm sorry, bro.
No, it's good. I've got a high school coach from Tenor Rock coming on next in Florida, Anthony Cerullo. So that should be fun. Yeah. And I've got this here. Please feel free to share it with whoever you want, as many places you want. I'll rip it off here and I'll put it onto my YouTube account. I don't know how to share or tag YouTube stuff. So if you know how, feel free to do that.
You know what? I'll just add it to my playlist of my interviews. And then if you could put a link to my channel underneath so people can subscribe to my channel. And then you should get some more subscriptions to yours when people watch the interviews on my playlist. So
yeah, I'll do it. Absolutely. And it was fun. And I appreciate anytime you want to shoot the shit. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. Let's stay in touch. Okay.
Hey, love you, man. Love what you're doing. I love everybody that's involved in our youth and growing the sport. So
you're doing a great job with your interviews. You're great. You get to it, man. I love it.
All right, man. You take it easy. Thank you so much.